What's up, fellow fantasy-loving friends? Josh here with RSMP Tabletop, and I'm beyond excited because today I have something new to build for Warhammer 40k. I need to give a special thanks to Chris because he's a big supporter and a friend of this channel, and he's actually been on it a few times. He was on our Battletech playthrough video, and he also helped out with the Redline Tactical Card Combat video, which Redline recently just did a Kickstarter, and I think they funded in the first 5 hours. So honestly, Redline, I'm super happy for you guys. Congratulations and keep up the good work. But back to 40k for now. When Chris handed me this box, he's like, some of it's painted, but you know, here you go. And I don't really know what that means, and I haven't opened it yet, so we're gonna open it up now and find out. The other thing I should mention too is I don't know anything about the Genestealer cult, but what I'll probably do is I'll learn a little bit about the lore, and then maybe I can do it in some of the voiceover while I build these. Okay, we got a book. Oh, okay, I see. He started to put some of the pieces together and there's a little bit of paint on them. Okay, well, he saved me time. So I'm hoping that that means that everything's here. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about the lore of the Genestealer cult right now, and let me be perfectly honest yet again, I don't know a ton about them, so what I recommend is if you do have facts or interesting things about the Genestealer cult, why don't you comment down below, so that way if there was somebody that was new that was thinking about picking this army up to play it, they can read your comment and learn a little bit more about them as well. Okay, so as far as I can tell, the Genestealers work with the Tyranids, and what they do is they try to locate planets that have intelligent life on them. Typically they look for planets with Imperium on them. When they find a suitable planet, they end up sending down one Genestealer cult, and what they do is they end up like hiding in caves or mines or like abandoned places in the meantime because they're trying to set up shop. Essentially, they're trying to make a cult on this planet, and they infiltrate it from the inside, which kind of makes them like insidious and honestly terrifying. As far as I can tell, it takes 4 generations from the first Genestealer that comes down and infiltrates the first time to they start to give birth to offspring that looks fairly like the Imperium. Some of the women, when they start to give birth to these like nasty looking creatures and stuff like that, they don't even see it. They just see them as like their own beautiful babies and they raise them and they're happy. Now, from what I can tell, they can infect other races like orcs and things like that, but through genetic testings, and sometimes it just doesn't take, a lot of the other races end up being way more of a hassle than it's worth, although it can be done. The insidiousness to this cult is they get in and they start to affect politics, and they basically turn the planet into this like crazy downturn. They send it into civil war and they make everybody fight each other and hate each other. Then at the last moment when nobody's got any power on either side of the planet, the Tyranids kind of swoop in and just destroy and cleanse the rest of the planet. So as you can see, I mean, if you're looking to play like this nasty little disgusting gritty army that's kind of like this hive mind down in the sewers until the time's right to spring up, then the Genestealer cult is definitely who you want to play. Now that we finished building, I gotta prime these bad boys. But I just remembered, I don't have any more black primer, so I gotta head over to 5-Star Games and get some. If you're looking for anything tabletop or wargame related, 5-Star Games in West Springfield is honestly one of the most top tier stores I've ever been to. If you go in and you talk to the manager, Chad.
5-Star Games is located in West Springfield on Memorial Avenue, 233 Memorial Avenue. So we're in the plaza that is right next to Bob's Discount Furniture and Chipotle, right between City Trend and TJ Maxx. So we've got a 2,500 square foot store. It's set to play events as well as get you everything that you need for your game or your hobby. So whether it's miniature painting, Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons, trading card games like Magic, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh! We have a very large selection of everything. And we host regular events for all of those that I mentioned, as well as specifically miniature painting events and how to play games for the trading card game. So if you're a new player or thinking about getting into it, definitely stop by and check us out. We'll be able to help you.
He'll help you out and point you in the right direction. He'll find you anything that you need for your hobby. For any of your gaming or tabletop needs, head down to 5-Star Games in West Springfield, Massachusetts. Now that we got our primer and what we need, it's time to paint these bad boys. For my black primer, I'm using Citadel Colors Chaos Black. And now if you look at these slow motion clips, you can just kind of see how like the primer's coming out of the can. They both have different nozzles, so I think they spray a little bit different, but slow motion prime is kind of cool, huh? For the zenithal and the white prime down, I'm using AK Fine Primers White. Okay, yet again, another thing that I shouldn't be giving advice on is the painting. I went online and I looked at a bunch of images of Genestealer Colts and I tried to decide what I wanted to do. One thing that I knew that I did like is because they start off in mines, they use like primitive tools like pickaxes and stuff. So like when the rebellion happens, like they're all hands on deck. They grab whatever weapons that they can. And to me, I kind of liked like the earth tones, or like I ended up using this fire orange for the cloaks that I really just, I liked it. I thought that tied in really nice with the camo green that I chose for the pants. I start off with one color and I just go through the entire army. I just pick up each piece and I do that color that it needs, and then I move on, I rinse my brush and I move on to the next color. As I've mentioned before, I'm not a good painter by any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, as you can see here, my hands are really shaky and sometimes it kind of makes it hard to paint. I do have a base that I can put the models in that I use sometimes, but I also just do like holding them with my hands. There's a lot of little detail in these guys, so what I always try to do is I try to start with the deepest, darkest colors first and kind of work my way out. The biggest thing I blew on this paint job right off the bat that I can already tell that I don't love is the heads and the skin color. This is something that I always struggle with to get right, but what I might do is instead of messing with it and just layering up too much paint, I may just wait until somebody that knows a little bit more about painting is available to kind of help show me some tips and tricks how I can clean these up and make them look a little bit better. I really like this gunmetal color. It's like a gray, but it's a little bit darker than it. I do use it on the weapons a lot, and I have mixed it with black a little bit to just darken it up a little bit to make the weapons look a little bit more profound. I'm gonna use a regular silver on like the backpacks here and like the metal parts, and I may either go over it with a nun oil later, or I may try to do a little bit more detailing. After I finish painting these up, I do plan on doing a dry brushing and trying to push them a little bit further to just button them up a little bit, make them look a little tighter. When I first started using the Army Speed Painter, I thought it went on really nice and I liked it. And yeah, it does seem to fall into cracks and crevices like okay. The more I've used other paint now, I just kind of like the way other paint goes on. It's not as thin, it's not as runny. It's just like, it's a little bit more satisfying when you put like a stroke of like black or even this orange on here. It just seems to stick and hold a little bit better. This camo color I think will look cool for the pants. It's like a green, but it's not too profound, so we'll go with something like this. There's a lot of times when you start painting and, you know, after I prime it black, I always think the model looks better. Then when I do the zenithal, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't like the way it looks. As I start painting, you get to a point where you're like, man, this thing sucks. It looks horrible. It's never gonna look good. And I usually feel like that's about like, once you have down like 2 or 3 colors, you start to run that phase. Once you hit the last stretch though, and the last few colors fall into place, I feel like that's when the model starts to kind of feel nice and good. Okay, I've just about got the first coat of paint done now, and as you can tell, there's definitely some mistakes, but this is kind of good. This is the roadmap. I can see the colors where I want everything to go down, and honestly, when you do this part, you can see areas that you missed, and this will inspire you to be like, okay, no, that spot needs a different color, or this needs that. So when I start to put paint down for the second layer, these colors are gonna tighten up and fill in all the space so much better. Then when I add nun oil and I dry brush, I really think it's gonna bring them to life. I'll probably end up doing that in a later video though, where I kind of finish off and polish the pieces. But for right now, I'm just trying to get these guys playable so I can put them down on the tabletop and I wouldn't feel embarrassed by rolling some dice next to them. So for some of you that have been playing Warhammer and painting for a while, you're probably gonna look at these guys and say, well, I don't know, Josh, I don't know if I'd say that those are really tabletop ready. But for me, when I look at them, the amount of detail and color, there's enough here for my imagination to grab on and pull me into the story and fill in the gaps. So I still have to add some browns for the leather, some reds and some greens to really finish these off. And then at a later date, I'll probably pull them back out, do one last coat on everything to fix all the stuff that I messed up. And then I'll dry brush them, I'll add the nun oil, and they'll probably be playable and ready for me. But I want to do that in a later video because I've got some stuff that I want to film for you guys because I have some exciting content coming up. So if you could like, subscribe, comment, and share because it helps me out a ton. It's going to help me show you guys some more about Warhammer, show you guys some more awesome game stores, and hopefully help you get into the hobby and like and grow with me. So until next time, stay safe.